go back to this mission statement. Why does this not define sustainability? I would be living a lifestyle in which my footprint would be below 1 Earth resources. Am I an island? That's what I was thinking back then, absolutely. I had really internalized that everything was messed up. And not only was everything messed up and all these species were going to die and all these people are living in poverty, I benefit from this. Whether I want to or not, I was born into this situation of privilege. I'm American, I'm white, my family's pretty well off. I felt really bad about all this. Not only that, though, I felt that I could do something about it. I really had internalized this popular message in our culture that tells us that you can do anything. You are free. You are totally free, especially because you live in America. You can do anything you want. You can change any situation you're in. And if the situation you're in is bad, it's your fault. You're not doing enough to change it. This is a message we constantly get from our media. This assumption was really heavily reflected in the design of the episode series. Like, the whole story that I was telling, basically, is that as an individual, you too can go off the grid, you can give up everything you have. If your ethical sense tells you that what you're doing is unsustainable, you should abandon it right then. So I really thought that the individual could just change everything. But even at a deeper level, what this is really saying, and now I'm going to get personal, what this is really saying about myself is that if I come up with a lifestyle in which I basically subtract myself from the equation of global unsustainability, I can absolve myself of all responsibility for my role in global unsustainability. I can just be clean of it, wipe my hands of it, everything's all better for me. I felt really guilty, and I wanted to come up with a way not only to validate myself to others, like, look, I'm doing this thing where I'm living off the grid and I'm videotaping it. It's really important, validate me. I'm saving the world. Look, I'm really trying. But I also wanted to just be free of the really complex, messy, horrible issues of the social systems that create unsustainability. So I really thought of myself as an island. But once I started living that lifestyle, I realized there's so much more to a person than just their individual material presence in the world. We are shaped by our environments, and our environments are shaped by us. And it's been fascinating to me over the last year or so to just observe these interacting systems of privilege. Everybody experiences privilege differently. Reflecting on privilege, this whole process kind of peaked when I traveled to Mexico. I had been to Mexico a couple years ago, and I had been really fascinated at how the people there seemed happier than the people in the US, and I had only ever been in the US before that. This past winter, I traveled to Mexico for 2 months, and while I was there, I traveled actually alone. I was backpacking across Mexico alone, and the whole experience was one of just observation. I was really just fascinated with observing how I was perceived as white, how I was perceived as female in a very machismo-oriented patriarchal culture. I mean, we live in a patriarchal culture in the US too, but it's much more subtle than it is there. And how, I was perceived in these various ways, perceived to have money, perceived to be American, and this in an international situation where Mexicans can't travel freely to the US, but US people born with a US passport can travel freely in Mexico. So I was just observing how all these things were interacting. Hi. And I was also observing how community and tradition and ways of communicating were different too. And how really many of our experiences, and hence our communication, is a result of our socialization and these systems of privilege that we experience. Beyond that phase, so there's like judgment and hatred at the situation. And it's really important that we be in that phase because we should be mad that the world is as inequitable as it is. Then there's the phase of stepping back a little bit and just observing, not trying to speak about your experience, especially if you're someone of privilege. But just stepping back and letting other people have space to share with you their experiences so you can get a better understanding of how these systems interact. And beyond that is accepting what is and acting from where you are without judgment. Without judgment is key. Just accepting people as they come to me and try to interact with me and move away from me, and accepting and watching that happen. Well, being white and privileged and being American and being educated and all these things comprise who I am. Caroline in 2008 wanted to prove to people that she was worthy of existing. Look, if I do this project, I can absolve myself of my role in global sustainability, and I can be worthy of this world. But in 2010, I realized that for the fact that I exist, intrinsically, I am worth existing. I exist in all of these weird, nuanced, interconnecting systems of privilege and non-privilege, and I have a very unique experience, and we all do. All of us here do. And to honor that and just experience that, accept it for what it is, you can then act intentionally from that place. Multiplicity is a really big word, but basically what it means is many worlds. Many worlds. We don't have to agree. I can honor you in your opinion. I don't have to persuade you to my opinion. I can honor you for what you are. I can honor your unique experiences, and that they'll never be the same as mine. Multiplicity. What I can offer from my place of privilege. So now that I'm at this place of accepting, how I got here, not trying to resist it, not trying to fight against it, but accepting where I am and acting from it, I'm trying to make this film that will appeal to young Americans like myself who have had the experience of feeling really concerned about global sustainability, wanting to do something about it, but feeling like the mainstream media has kind of closed off the dialogue, where the only perspectives we're actually getting educated on tend to be corporate ones and governmental ones. They co-opt the word sustainability. They say, oh, we have sustainable investing and all this stuff, and there's this sense that they're leaving something out, but we don't know what that is. We want to talk about these things. We want to talk about what it would look like to actualize sustainability in the world, but we feel restricted because of the media that we have. It's sold to us, it's marketed to us, and that's a problem. We really need to be talking about how we're going to bring about sustainability. It's really urgent and a huge challenge, so we need this open dialogue. We need to openly honor one another's perspective and think about how all the systems tie together and connect.